Oh, good evening, everyone. And of all things, can I begin by acknowledging the awesome talent behind me here and also for the people sitting in the room. I'm just in awe of what you can accomplish. It's beautiful. My hack is, of all things, the way that we create the future. And I'm going to offer to you three scenarios in terms of the future of professional speaking. Now, I need to preface this by saying I, in fact, think the future is going to be extraordinary, and I'm really bored with people who don't. And I'm becoming a little bit concerned about the media who continually tell kids, let alone grown-ups, that the world is going to be lousy up ahead because then they start to lose hope for it. So taking that into account, the world's not perfect. It's a beautiful mess, and it is with professional speaking, as every one of us has found at different times in our lives. However, all that notwithstanding, we are suffering from a progress paradox at the moment. And the paradox is that the better things get, the worse most people think they are. So taking that into account, here are three scenarios in terms of the future of speaking. Now, I again preface this one by saying it's very difficult to predict the future. However, what we often do is come up with what is called a scenario, which is a conjecture, a possibility, and then we backward map and say, what would we do when we saw that starting to appear? So here are the three scenarios from my perspective. The first one is that within 10 years, none of you will have any work at all. And that may go a little bit in opposite to the things I was saying about the future being extraordinary. So I'll build up on that one just briefly. Chatbots already are reasonable. They're at the stage of a 3 to 4 year old, which is, I think, casting aspersions on 3 and 4 year olds, but they still are becoming passable. There is a non-profit foundation in the States that has issued a $2 million challenge to someone who can develop a robot that can give a TED talk and get a standing ovation. As yet, it hasn't accomplished it, but I can tell you now it's inevitable. So this is going to happen. Chatbots will increasingly take over. Already most people are fooled by someone who's on the phone, and more that will actually happen in real life as well. What to do about that? There are lots of things. One is that you make sure that if they're going to copy someone's speech, it's yours. So then you will have your IP being used by these artificial devices. So that's why it's very important to get out there and put your message out as well as possible. So the first scenario is no professional speaking. The second one is the polar opposite. And it's where people get so bored with all of the technology that they decide they only want to listen to human beings again. And so they're not the least interested in someone who uses any technology at all without exception. And I believe that the core skill for the 21st century is going to become empathy. So I push hard on this with education anyway, and I push it with adults as well. And bluntly, if you don't have so-called empathy with a group, I can't see how you can make it in professional speaking anyway. And you can see this when you listen to these people because they have this beautiful energy for just capturing a crowd. So empathy is going to become more and more important. So that'll be the core skill, I believe, in this second one. As well as that, you make sure that you join PSA because there are so many people around who give you so many skills in terms of improving your stagecraft anyway. Okay, so the second scenario is basically the polar opposite, where in fact we focus only on people who don't use any technology at all. I'll give a weighting to those first two of about 30% each in terms of the sum total of 100%. The final scenario is a 40% weighting, and I believe it's going to be a combination of the human and the artificial intelligence. So perhaps if you were after an equation, we'd talk about HI plus AI. So human intelligence plus artificial intelligence. So perhaps 15 years from now, the highly competent speaker will be the one who knows how to present beautifully to a crowd and has wonderful elocution and knows how to use those oral skills. And yet at the same time, they use the technologies to accentuate what message they're offering. My bet on this one, and I'm willing to bet some people in the crowd would go with this one as well, is augmented reality as compared to virtual reality. And augmented reality is where in 5 years from now, when you come to this dinner and you look at the menu, you put on some glasses or you just use your phone and you look down and you see the chef stand up who will then tell you, explain to you personally what is on the menu this night and what the specials are. And so you'll be able to augment a lot of things you do with that as well. So 3 scenarios. I actually think that there'll probably be combinations of all of them, but my blunt point is this. You still create a fair bit of the future, and I'm also bored with people who think it just happens to you as compared to realizing you can create it. So take into account those 3 scenarios and generate and create the most wonderful future for professional speaking. Thank you.